Hey everyone, welcome to FAM 253 Human Sexuality. My name is Dr. Jason Hans. I am the instructor for the class. I've been a professor at UK since 2004, and I'm currently also department chair in the Department of Family Sciences. This is probably, I don't know, maybe 40th, 50th time I've taught this class. I taught it pretty much every semester with 300, 600 students every semester in the 2000s. And then I was doing different things in my career in the 2010s for about 10 years. I didn't teach this class. I didn't teach any undergraduate classes for about 10 years, actually. And then I started teaching the class again maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And then the pandemic happened and everything was moved online. And it turns out students seem to like the online asynchronous format. So I've been working on adapting the class to this format. I think this will be the maybe third time I've taught it in this format. So that's still a work in progress. Some things won't and still aren't and won't be quite as good as they are when the class is in person on campus. So, for example, I have several guest speakers who I invite to the class when we meet in person, but in this format, it doesn't seem really enticing, appealing, appropriate to invite a guest speaker to basically record their talk and speak to a webcam and then put the recording up for you. So I don't do that. So I've been skipping guest speakers in this format. But I do try to give typical lectures and show films and stuff that I would typically do in class. But in general, the class is pretty complete, but there's still certainly some development that I'm working on to fully transition to this format. Let's see what else. In general, this video is going to be pretty short. This is basically like first day of class video, sort of going through the syllabus, the expectations, talking through those things. It's a little bit less useful in the sense that I'm not looking at you. You're not there to raise your hand and ask questions, and so you'll have to email me or the TA, McKenna, if you have questions. But hopefully, through the syllabus, the things online, and this video, most of your questions will be answered. Maybe the first place to start is what to anticipate with this class. In general, the topic, obviously, human sexuality is interesting in itself. We're not going to be really talking about sex per se very much. We will a little bit, but human sexuality is a much broader concept. And so we'll be talking about all kinds of things, gender identity, sexual orientation, sexual variation, paraphilias or abnormal behaviors, contraception, pregnancy, sex in the media, sexual harassment, lots of different topics, love, and obviously intercourse and orgasm and masturbation and all those sorts of things as well. Generally, you're going to be reading the textbook, one chapter every week. There's 1 week where you'll do 2 chapters, and so you'll have one sort of heavy week. But every other week throughout the semester, you'll be doing 1 chapter. As you can see behind me here, let me scroll down on this a little bit. Let me find my mouse. There we go. It's just on Zoom. You can see we just go through the chapters in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exam. We're going to have an exam every 4 chapters, and so every exam will cover 4 chapters, plus the lectures and films that have been posted, assigned since the previous exam, or since the start of the semester in the case of the first exam. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, exam 1. And then right after exam 1 is the week when we'll have 2 chapters, so 7 and 8, all both in one week. Notice that we skipped chapters 5 and 6. That's we don't have time in a 15-week semester to cover all 18 chapters. I doubled up that one time, but I felt like it would be too much to double up 3 different weeks. And so I chose chapters 5 and 6 to skip, not because the material there isn't important, but there's anatomy and some biological things there and so on. So I encourage you to read those on your own time, but we won't go through those chapters in this class, given that they're a little bit more anatomy and biology oriented, and this is more of a social science type of class. That said, speaking of perspective, we take lots of different perspectives in this class in terms of disciplinary perspectives, depending on what seems most useful or appropriate or whatever the case may be on the given topic. Sometimes we'll talk about evolutionary biology. Sometimes we'll talk about public health, intimate family relations, psychology, sociology, communication. So different perspectives on different topics as sort of the topic demands or seems appropriate for the topic. Anyway, I sort of got off track here talking about the exams. 4 exams. The final exam will be exam 4. That's going to be during finals week, but it'll be no different than the other exams. It's still going to cover 4 chapters, the last 4 chapters, and the lecture and the film that have been posted since exam 3. So although it's during finals week, it's really just another exam in the class. It's not comprehensive. Let's see. I think I spoke a little bit about the online asynchronous format of the class. I think sometimes students think that that's going to be easy. I mean, sex class, online, asynchronous, how hard can it be, right? I want to caution you to not underestimate the time that you'll need to put into this class. You will be held accountable for learning the material on the exams, and you'll certainly have to demonstrate some knowledge and engagement with the material through weekly critical thinking posts and replies and so on that we'll talk about in a few minutes. I think you've seen a few announcements. If you haven't, if you missed them, maybe you joined the class late or something. On the announcements, that's going to show a lot of things that haven't been posted yet, but because I'm in the instructor view, but these have all been posted. And so the tips for success, and more tips for success, those are basically I wrote to students at the end of last semester. I wrote to students who did really well overall all semester and asked, what are your tips for succeeding in this class? And then I also wrote to students who really screwed up on exam 1. They got 50%, 60% on exam 1, but then they really crushed it on everything else for exams 2, 3, 4. And so I asked them, what did you do differently? What did you figure out after exam 1 that it would be helpful to have figured out before exam 1? Because then, after scoring badly on exam 1, they had to spend the entire semester really just trying to catch up to earn the grade that they wanted. And in some cases, they were still a grade below, because that's pretty difficult to overcome when you score a 50, 60% on a major exam. So read through those, get some ideas about time investment and approach and so on, to the extent that you can from the tips that they provided. I also provided how to use the study guides. I'll talk about the study guides in a minute. Be sure that you read that carefully. Um, and But in terms of time investment, not underestimating the class. Typically, I think one student who did really well said that he or she spent like 3 or 4 hours a week on the class. That's pretty low to do well in the class. As a 3 credit hour class, you may not know the reason why 12 credit hours is considered full time for undergraduate students is because typically you spend 1 hour in class for every credit hour per week, and then you're expected to spend 2 hours outside of class for every hour that you spend in class. So with 12 credit hours, you're spending 12 hours in the classroom and then 24 hours outside of class doing readings and homework and assignments and things like that. So add that 12 plus 24 is 36, essentially a full-time work week. So with a 3 credit hour class, we typically spend 3 hours in class, 6 hours outside of class, 9 hours total per week. We're obviously not going to have class meetings. You will have some lectures and films to watch that will take some time. But generally, I would say if you're spending probably 7, 8, 9 hours a week on class, then that's probably about right. That's probably about what most people will need to be successful. Some people can do it with less, some with more. That'll be up to you to figure out, obviously. But understand that to be successful in the class, it will take some time. As I showed in my, I think, overview of the class, my first announcement that I sent out, the last semester, using the same class structure and online asynchronous and all that, about 18% of students earned an A, about 55% earned a B or C, and about 10% of students failed the class. So it's certainly not an easy A. It is an A is achievable if you work for it, and certainly a B or C. If you earn anything less than a C, then you've probably earned something less than a C due to a lack of focus or effort or keeping up with things and so on. So anyways, that's just sort of general statement. Please do not underestimate the class. Read the tips from the previous semester students. Take the class seriously. Set aside time. That's one of the biggest challenges with the online asynchronous format is it's easy to forget about. It's easy to push aside. You don't have as much structure. You've really got to create that structure for yourself. Set aside that time to watch the lectures, watch the films, read the textbook, study, do the assignments every week, despite not having the structure of class. So anyways, let's go through the syllabus. I can pull it up here just so it's sitting here behind me. All right, I mentioned the teaching assistant, McKenna. She is a doctoral student in the Department of Family Sciences. She has a master's degree in couple and family therapy from our department as well. And now she's, what is she? Second? I think she's in her 4th semester in the doctoral program. She's also, by the way, this semester, if you're a FAM major or taking other FAM classes, she is teaching FAM 252 this semester. So maybe you have her for an instructor as well. But in this class, she'll be the teaching assistant. What that really means in this context is that she's going to be reading and grading your critical thinking posts and replies, which I'll describe in a minute. Of course, she'll also answer questions and so on. You can reach out to her or to me with questions and issues and so on, and either one of us can address those. But her main role in the class will be grading the critical thinking assignments. Generally, we'll talk about those are basically every week they're due for each chapter. And so we'll be finishing those up on Sunday, transitioning to a new chapter on Monday. She's hoping to get the previous week's critical thinking post graded on Monday or Tuesday of the following week. And so hopefully, she'll set aside that time and get through those, and you'll have your score for the previous week on Monday or Tuesday. That's probably not going to be a big deal to you. Obviously, keeping up with the grading is important, but maybe the first week or two, some of you will be struggling to figure out how to meet the expectations, and so getting that feedback sooner or before you do the next week's assignments will be helpful. But beyond that, long term, after the first week or two, if you're not earning all of the points on the critical thinking post, or at least most of the points, then you got an issue, because these shouldn't be hard. If you're meeting the expectations, which are outlined on the syllabus. Let's see, I'm going to just read it straight from the syllabus here. Where are we? So these posts will be graded based on the quality and content quality of content and demonstration of critical thinking skills, integration of textbook material to support the response, length, a minimum of 500 words, maximum of 300 words, and proper use of grammar and punctuation. So that's for the critical thinking posts. I guess I should back up and say what these are first. On the discussion link on Canvas, I'm not going to, you won't see it right now. I'll stay on the syllabus. But on the discussion link on the navigation menu in Canvas, every week there will be 2 or 3 or 4 discussion prompts that are related to that week's assigned chapter. And you choose any one of those discussion prompts and respond to it. You've got to integrate textbook material to support your response, at least 2 page or section number citations from the textbook. And so you're basically just integrating or applying that week's textbook material to a critical thinking post in response to any one of 2 or 3 or 4 prompts. And then critical thinking replies, each week you'll do 1 post, and then you'll do 1 reply to a classmate's post. And so the requirements are generally about the same. You can see these same 4 things here, except they can be a little bit shorter. The replies, they're 100 to 300 words rather than 150 to 300 words. The critical thinking posts are due. They must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on Thursday night. This is going to be repetitive every week. It's going to be the same routine. And so every Thursday night, except spring break, you're going to have a critical thinking post due. And that week when we have 2 chapters, chapter 7 and 8, that week you'll have 2 of them due on Thursday night. But every other week you'll have 1 due. And then every Sunday night by 11:59 p.m., you'll have 1 critical thinking reply due. You don't have to wait till Thursday or Sunday to do these. You can actually do them for the whole week. You can get them done on Monday. The discussion prompts each week will be available at 5 a.m. every Monday. And so you could reply to it early Monday morning and be done with it. That said, if you're one of the first people to do your discussion post, then you might need to return later to do your discussion reply if nobody else has done a post yet for you to reply to. But that being the only limitation, you can do these as early as you want, starting as early as 5 a.m. on Monday mornings. And I encourage you to do that. There's always unexpected things come up. You forget, you have computer issues, internet issues, whatever. There are no excuses for being late on these assignments. You've got all week to do them. Don't wait until the last minute. They're relatively easy points. You just got to do them, and you got to do them on time. So set aside time to do those early in the week is what I suggest. So those are the replies. Let me scroll back up here. I've lost my scrolling ability somehow. Oh, I need to go over here. Sorry. So the posts are there's 16 of them because we're doing 16 chapters. There were 6 points each, so 96 points throughout the semester. The replies a little bit shorter, a little bit easier. You don't have to create original content. You don't have to cite the textbook twice. So 16 of those, 4 points each. 64 points. Add those together. That's, what is that, 160 points over the semester for these critical thinking assignments due every week throughout the semester. The other graded content in the class are the exams. We'll have 4 exams. Each exam will cover 4 chapters each. Each exam will have 100 multiple choice questions, 20 questions from each chapter. So 4 chapters, 20 questions, that's 80 of the 100. The other 20 will come from the lectures and films that have been assigned since the previous exam. Those, honestly, that's last semester, for example, that's where most students screwed up. They did not take the time to watch the lectures and films. Why? I don't know. That's really, I like to think anyways that that's a really interesting part of the class. But 20% of your grade will be based on those lectures and films. And I intentionally write those questions in a way that they're pretty hard to answer if you haven't watched and been mindful about paying attention to the lectures and the films that are assigned. So, if you, those 20 points, 20 questions on each exam, 20% on each exam, it adds up to about 15% of your semester grade. So screw up all of those and you're automatically reducing your semester grade by 1 or 2 grades. And so it doesn't seem like much in terms of 20 questions on an exam, 20% of an exam, but it adds up and it can be costly to your overall grade. So be sure to watch the lectures and films that are submitted or that are assigned. You don't necessarily have to watch them exactly when they're assigned. I'll try to post them in somewhat evenly spaced. This class, when it's taught in a classroom, it's usually like a Tuesday, Thursday class. So I'll kind of try to keep that schedule, but some weeks I may be a little early, a little late posting the lecture or the film. But you can watch them. Certainly nothing wrong with watching them when they're posted. But you definitely want to watch them before the exam. That doesn't mean cram for the exam. Give yourself plenty of time because you're going to need to watch them, actively, maybe take notes, do whatever you would do if you were sitting in the classroom listening to the lecture or watching the film. But if you do it too early, then you could forget stuff that you might not otherwise forget, and so on. But just be sure you leave yourself enough time, but nonetheless get it done before the exam. The exams will be available from 5 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. on the day of the exam. Every exam is on a Monday, and there will be practice exams. You'll have 2 opportunities for practice exams with each exam. And so in the 2 days leading up to the Monday exam, that Saturday and Sunday, you'll have an opportunity to take a practice exam on Canvas. The practice exams are basically half length of the full exam, and minus the lecture and film questions. So it'll be only the textbook questions and 10 per chapter, rather than 20. You will not, on the practice exams, you will not see which questions you got right or wrong. You'll simply be able to get a sense for how well you know the material and are prepared for the exam, so that you know whether you need to go back and study more or not. But again, you will not know exactly which questions you got right or wrong on the practice exam. The study guides, I sent you, Chapter 1 study guide is posted now. Be sure to go download that. I sent you an announcement about the study guides. The study guides are 80 to 100 questions on each chapter. And so each week you should be reading the textbook, working through those questions, making sure that you find the answer in the textbook. Every one of those questions, it has an answer in the textbook. Some are easier to find, some are more difficult. Some of them you have to find the answer by looking in different places, understanding the whole of the material rather than just finding a sentence that says exactly what the answer is. But in any case, all of the answers are available in the textbook. It'll be up to you to work through those study guides and then to figure out how to remember that. 80 to 100 questions on 4 study guides for each exam. That adds up to 320 to 400 multiple choice questions. That it's pretty difficult to just memorize the answer to all of those. So it's going to be important for you to read the textbook, really understand the material, and then use the study guides in a way that enhances your learning and knowledge rather than inhibits it or shortcuts it. Don't skip the reading and just do the study guides and think that you're going to be able to do well on the exam. The reason why some students do that is because the study guides on the exam, the 80 questions, the 20 random questions from each chapter on the exam will be directly from the study guides, word for word. So there will be no there'll be no changes, no alterations. It'll just be randomly selected straight from the study guide. Sounds easy, right? But it's not. First of all, it's not easy to, it takes time to get the correct answer on the study guides. There's no answer key. You're not going to know if you have the right answer unless you really pay attention and make sure that you answer the questions correctly. And then you're going to have to figure out a way to remember those answers, which is going to be really hard if, for example, you just got the answers from somebody else and are just memorizing them. You really need to understand the material in the textbook, so take the time to read those. As I said in the announcement about how to use the study guides, many students try to short circuit that process, and it really messes them up in terms of how they do on the exam. So don't risk it. It never turns out well. So 80%, 80 out of 100 questions on the exam, if you've worked through the study guides and you know all of those questions, you're going to be familiar with 80% of the exam before you ever take the exam for each exam. The other 20 questions that come from lecture and film, those you will not have seen those anywhere. They will not be on study guides. You'll just simply have had to watch the lecture and film, take notes, remember the material, understand the material, and be ready to answer 20 unfamiliar questions from that material. So with the study guides, I give you essentially 80% of the exam. The trade-off is that you can't ask me or McKenna any questions about the study guides. All of those questions have been reviewed multiple times, vetted, checked to make sure the answers are in the textbook. If you can't find the answer, if you're not sure what the answer is, you can consult a classmate, something like that. But you cannot get the answers or get help on them from me or McKenna. Also, because they take time to do, unlike I suggested that you could wait on the watching the films and lectures until the days leading up to the exam to have less risk of loss of retention on that material. Don't do that for the study guides and the reading the chapters, because it's going to be too much. It's going to take too much time. It's going to be too long. It's going to be too overwhelming. It will not be to your benefit. Do the study guides every week, do the reading every week, and so on. I can't force you to do that, but to encourage you to do that, in fact, to force you to think about exam preparation every week, what I do is I post the study guide the week that we're doing it. So this week we're doing chapter 1. The chapter 1 study guide is posted. At the end of the week, Sunday night, 11:59, we're done with chapter 1. The chapter 1 study guide will go away. You'll no longer be able to get it from Canvas. You won't be able to get it from me or McKenna. And so the reason, and then this chapter 2 study guide will be posted at 5 a.m. Monday morning. The reason why I do that is because although I can't force you to read and work through the study guides every week, this at least forces you to think about exam preparation every week. You have to download the study guide and intentionally decide to not do it in any given week if that's what you decide to do. But you do have to at least think enough to download it and make the conscientious decision to set it aside and not do it that week if that's what you choose to do. Let's see. No, I need to come over here. Sorry. Let's see what else is on the syllabus here. Well, we all kind of already talked about that on the class schedule on Canvas. Typical course policies. Skim through those. All right, let me get out of here and go back to Canvas. Dun. All right, textbook. I assume that you read the information on the homepage here about the textbook down here. If you want to opt out of it, you can do that. Buy the hard. It's not hardcover, but the printed textbook. Personally, I'm a little bit older. I'm not used to using ebooks. I would personally prefer to have the book in front of me. But I know many of you are used to ebooks, and they're a lot cheaper. I think the printed textbook is probably over $100. You get the packaged ebook for $43.74, and that's already charged through your UK account when you signed up for the class, I believe. But if you opt out, then that money will be refunded to your account. So I think it's pretty rare that students opt out of the ebook, but that's an option if you wish to do so. Lectures and films, this link right here, this is where I'll post links to the lectures and films as they're assigned. You can see there's none posted now. Generally, when I update that page, there's an option to click to notify students that this page has been changed. I'll always click that. And honestly, I don't even know what that does. I think it probably maybe sends you an email or something. But in any case, it's apparently notifies you in some way. And so you get that notification. I also put a suggested to-do by date on it, which adds it to the it's not the official syllabus, but this sort of timeline of things to do. they'll pop up in here on whatever date I suggest that you watch them by. Those suggestions are just to sort of space them out. I'll usually suggest that they be watched within a few days after I post them. That's in large part, it's just another way to inform you that, hey, there's new content here for you to look at. But again, whether you look at it then or wait for all of them until closer to the exam is your choice. Quizzes, exams, it's the exact same thing. Canvas calls the exam page quizzes. I think it's kind of confusing, but they're the same. So there's four exams. These are all the practice exams that will become active on the Saturday and Sunday leading up to the exam. Everything else pretty straightforward here. So let me see anything else I need to cover. Yeah, I think I've covered pretty much everything. I will say that I don't think I said when I was talking about the lectures and films, I've always kind of found it to be a waste of time when an instructor repeats what's in the textbook in lecture or in class during class time. My expectation is that you're able to read the textbook when it's assigned and understand that material. And so what I do with the lectures and films is I try to supplement and complement what's in the textbook. So the lectures would generally and films would generally track with the content and topics that you're reading about in the textbook. But and there'll be obviously some overlap, some redundancy of material, but the vast majority of what I lecture about should be fairly unique to what you're getting in the textbook. So again, that just again suggests that the 20 questions on each exam from the lecture and films, you're probably not going to be able to answer many of those if you haven't watched the lectures and films. You won't get the answers to most of those questions from the textbook. I think that's all I have for this video, for this sort of introduction. And I get the convenience of this. I kind of don't like it in the sense that I really enjoy lecturing in a large auditorium with hundreds of students and having real-time interaction with you and getting your nonverbal cues and laughing with you and learning with you and getting to know many students in the class. Unfortunately, those things aren't really possible in this format. I'm sitting here actually literally in my closet at home. My closet is my home office, and I'm looking at a webcam and talking basically to myself. So it's a little bit different format, but we'll do the best we can with it. And I hope that you find the format useful for your needs, for flexibility and convenience and so on. And I hope that you find the class interesting. And I wish you all a terrific semester. And I'll see you again in a few days when I post the first lecture. Don't forget to do your first assignment is due Thursday night, 11:59 p.m. You've got to do the critical thinking post by then. You've got to reference the textbook a couple of times and so on. Again, read the expectations in the syllabus. Read through the announcements on Canvas. Make sure you understand the format of the class. Let me know if you have any questions. And I'll see you next time.